Welcome to this special gathering on free tech tools to reach your people online in 2021. Sammy and Michele are here with us, and I'm going to turn it over to you and let you introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your ministry, and I'll turn off the doorbell.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to actually start by sharing my screen for the slides. All right. So like Bob graciously introduced, we're talking about free tech tools today. Michele and I are co-owners in a ministry we call Digivangelism. Here's our mission and our website. If you're interested, we seek to help progressive leaders of spiritual communities share hope, healing, and light online. My name is Sammy, and I graduated from United Lutheran Seminary in 2019. I've had some parish ministry experience, and now am kind of more focused on digital ministry. I was also on staff with Northeast Penn Synod of the ELCA, so if you recognize my face or name, that might be why I was helping with youth ministry for a year or two there. I'm also a video editor, and so I'm into the social media side of things, the video side of things. And Michele, I don't know, are you able to, yeah, you can unmute yourself if you want to introduce yourself,
Yep.
tell us what kind of things you like to do.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Michele Barra. Been in software or computer technology industry my entire career. And right now I've been a programmer, web developer, project manager. So I'm on the tech side of things. Met up with Sammy at our church and got involved with our ministries there and knew that we had to take this to another level and take it to spread the good news out. So we put our heads together and came up with Digivangelism.
Good stuff. So we're going to run through a lot of different slides on free tech tools and beyond. And I tend to talk quickly and get excited about things, so my apologies in advance. You can put questions in the chat. You can save them. We're going to probably hold most of them to the end. And this is all recorded, so if you have to leave and you want to come back to it later, that seems to be an option. So thanks for being here again. Let's get rolling. So digital ministry, we like to talk about in two different ways. We talk about internal digital ministry and then external, and we're going to give you some tools for each of those things. So starting with internal, we're focusing here on building and strengthening the relationships that exist in your community. Maybe not members only, but people that are connected to your community. Internal communication with staff and leaders, not just sharing things with your community like, hey, we're doing this thing, but listening to their responses too, and tools that we can use for those things. And this is usually focused on platforms either your people spend time on already, so you're reaching them where they are, or platforms and tools that you can convince them to use. Some of these things might be new to you that we'll share, but they might still be good tools for your community internal use. And then external outward use, you're sharing your mission, inviting people into next steps. We're going to dive into these things later. Not focused on advertising externally, but focused on analytics and reaching people beyond those that are already connected to your community. So I think we can block the word ministry. That's fine. Internal digital ministry and those things I talked about before, relationships, listening and sharing, focusing where your people are, they're going to stay down here while we talk about internal ministry so we remember what we're talking about. But first, finding your people where they are. You can do this in a couple ways. Creating a poll, which we'll talk about a tool in a second to do that. Ask them in conversation, sit down and say, hey, where are you spending time online these days? And where do you think our church could do better at being involved online? Where are you willing to help us be more involved online? Trying out new tools and technologies with a select group of people first. So if you want to try some of the apps we might talk about later, maybe you ask your leadership or a group of 3 or 4 or 5 to experiment with you a little first to see if it's going to be a possibility. And then, of course, the encouragement not to be afraid to try something new. There's going to be stress and a learning curve with anything new, and everybody always feels good where they are. I know we've had to obviously do new things the past 2 years, but don't be afraid to try out a new tool if it might make things even easier for you in the long run. And the polling tool, a lot of you might have already known how to use this or use it yourself. Google Forms, it's a free application if you have a Gmail account, which is free. that you can make polls and all sorts of different questions so people can answer them, and you can see the individual responses, but also all the data of all of the responses. And a fun shortcut, if you use Google Forms or Google Docs or Sheets or Slides or anything, is to just type like forms.new in your URL, and it'll just start the new form. I use that all the time for docs. It was like a game changer for me, just docs.new. It just starts it right away. So there's your hack for that one. And all right, these are the free options for internal communication. We're gonna talk about a little bit. We're not gonna go too much into detail with these. You probably know a decent amount of them. First, just don't write off the opportunity, the possibility that connecting with people via one-on-one communications could be a good way to reach them. Text messages. The middle one there is Facebook Messenger or Instagram Messenger, direct messaging people. GroupMe is an app for like kind of like text conversations, whether it's one-on-one or in groups, that's just separate from your texting app. So if you want another option to kind of keep it separate, you can try GroupMe. There's obviously like boundaries and safety concerns that need to be thought about intentionally before moving forward with these, but I wouldn't write them off just because you need to make some of those decisions. So figure out, when is it okay for your staff to direct message people on Facebook? Is it just when they're using the church account? Is it just certain times of day? Whatever those rules you want to come up with are, and then use them, knowing that people are responding better to one-on-one communication a lot of the times better than a blanket message or a blanket email to all people, especially younger people. Like a direct message on Instagram for a younger person seems a lot more personal perhaps than maybe a text that goes out to everybody. Next, Slack. This isn't like a huge one for everybody, but if you're looking to improve communication within your leadership, it is an opportunity and it's free. It is a way to kind of have multiple conversations going at once on one platform, but like separating those conversations into channels. So maybe you have all your leadership on a Slack platform, and you have one tab that's just your worship conversations, just your kids ministry conversations, and so on and so forth, just to kind of keep things separate and not have a million different email threads going with a bunch of different people. So if you're looking to improve internal leadership communication, check out Slack. I like it. A lot of people in the corporate world tend not to, I think, but maybe that's more about the type of work they're doing than the actual platform. So it's an option. And also, I like these a lot. Michele has been introduced to them through me. Voxer and Marco Polo are great options. We've used them. I've used them in ministry as well for group communication or one-on-one communication that is audio, kind of like a walkie-talkie, but you don't have to be on the other end receiving the message live. So I kind of can leave a little voicemail for Michele and say, hey, Michele, are you ready to do this presentation we're about to jump on today? And Michele maybe is doing something else, but 10 minutes later sees it and can either type a response or audio respond, yes, let's do this. This worked well for Vacation Bible School for us at my church. We used Voxer. We had a bunch of the leaders in Voxer. So then if someone needed a bathroom break, someone else got on the Voxer and said, hey, we have a kid that needs someone to walk them to the bathroom. And then someone can respond. Everyone sees there's a response. It's really neat. And Marco Polo is pretty much exactly the same, except there's video involved in Marco Polo. And again, I've used that in ministry where maybe you're checking in each day for a short period of time, not necessarily your whole church all year in a Marco Polo group, but maybe you do like a 3-week study and you're asking people once a week to check in or every day to check in on a certain topic. And then you can see the people, they can record their message, and it sticks around. They don't have to be watching it live, but they also can be watching it live. Zoom, duh, we're not going to talk about that, but it's free and we're on it right now. So good job, you use Zoom well. Michele, take it away.
Hey, Facebook groups. So I'm sure everyone, or hope everyone, has at least a Facebook page. And so we're going to talk about groups a little bit. So I've heard it said that Facebook itself is the front porch of your house, and Facebook groups are the living room or the kitchen or wherever people gather and come into community and build relationships. So Facebook groups are a really, really good tool for church communities, faith communities, to have those kind of separate and little groups that are not open to the public. So next slide. And speaking of groups, there's 3 types of groups you can have. There are public groups, private groups, and hidden groups. Public, just what it sounds like. Anybody can search for them and find them and join them. You usually have to answer a couple questions from the moderator, and then you're in. And that's a lot of vacation sort of things, and restaurants and little tourist areas will have public groups so everybody can get to know their area. A private group is only members can see who's in the group and see what they post. Now that's a little bit more constrained, and that's good for a small group ministry, a Bible study, where you want to have a little more control over who is in and out of your groups. And typically the moderator or the admin will invite people, and they will be able to invite people as well. And then a hidden group. I think these are interesting for church, for faith communities who need to keep sort of confidential information or confidentiality, because they are not searchable at all. I mean, they will not come up in a search, and obviously, if you're not part of it, you're not going to see what's in the group. So maybe recovery groups or anything to do with children, or actually. And a fun use of it is you can have a surprise for your pastor or your staff if you're planning something, and then so your pastor will never know that you have all these people planning this thing because it's in a hidden Facebook group. And next up. So for all the no matter the type of group, it's important to have a structure, right? And so first rule is establish and plainly display the rules and the guidelines. And the second most important rule is to enforce them. And I don't want to say rules like I'm very strict, but it's guidelines are there to make everyone else feel safe. Because if you display the guidelines and they're not enforced, then people are going to feel like they can't communicate properly. And it's just not a good feeling, not a safe feeling for folks in the group. So make sure you come up with and display your rules and enforce them. And it's almost an obligation you have, I think, to have more than one group administrator or moderator, because you never know what's going to happen with folks. They move on. So let at least 2 people, ideally 3, have the rights to control the groups and who's in and out. And when people join those groups, welcome them in. As a moderator, you should welcome them in, and then encourage your other members to welcome them in as well. And that'll kind of develop like a little community familial feeling there. You want to stay on topic in your group. And if you're doing a small group ministry and find that you have a tangent, maybe make another group for that. And so just keep in mind that people join a group with that topic in mind, with the content in mind, and maybe they don't want to be distracted with other things. So try to stay on topic. And along with that is post regularly, because group communication can be like the only connection some people have during the week to other than a worship service, to connect with other people. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention as a moderator and the members, and posting it and putting good, helpful content out there. And really, you want to encourage that safe space. No matter what your group is about, you want it to be useful and helpful. And I like it. And you can make the argument that, well, why don't you just use Zoom for a Bible study? But then Zoom, plus you record it, of course, it goes away. And it's not really searchable. So I like the idea of a group for almost as a repository for information, because you can have links in there, websites, references. It's searchable for future reference. So what else we got? So those are internal uses for your groups. So more external, sort of external uses for Facebook groups that are networking, crowdsourcing, and learning. what does this mean? Facebook for Faith is organized by Facebook itself. It's something that I would encourage you to join. They post very helpful information. Of course, they're Facebook, they know the platform, so they know what's coming out. They know how to best use these tools. So that's a great resource for ideas. You can also, the thing in the middle is learning opportunities or crowdsourcing. So you can search for these groups and join other sorts of groups for digital media, worship ideas, and church communications. And there's a whole, hundreds of groups that are possible. And, Facebook itself is a search engine, so let's remember that it can be searched for anything, just like Google. And so there's a great source for learning and interacting with other people. Then there's with the example of the private group for, a little town in New Jersey, who, if you want to just know what's going on down there, that's a great way to kind of get focused and stay off of the wider Facebook ecosystem there, if you want to keep it focused. And that's all for me right now.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. I want to comment on, I love that you brought up the small town, Ocean City, New Jersey, represent, but also looking for your own small towns on Facebook. If you have a group, I know little old New Tripoli out here, we have a very active small town group, but maybe your community has some sort of small town group that you can kind of either keep tabs on or make sure that from time to time you're sharing your church opportunities in there, because those are local people. So keep tabs on those groups, find the ELCA clergy group, find all the other fun ELCA groups that are up on Facebook for you to interact in. But we're going to switch to outward digital ministry, which, as a reminder, we're talking about sharing your mission, inviting it to next steps, not focusing on advertising, but paying attention to analytics. We're going to talk about each of those things a little more, and then some tools and thoughts. So, mission focused. When you're reaching out, these are people that might not ever come in person, and that. That's kind of like you're putting that content out there, recognizing there has to be other ways for these people to engage other than just coming in person. But first, you need to know why you exist. You need to know, what are you telling them about? What kind of community are you? Like a one-liner, this is who we are, this is why we exist, this is what we do, to invite people into something so they know why you exist in the first place. And once you know, that's great, but make sure everyone else knows why you exist. Everyone on staff, everyone in your community should be centralized around this mission. And then you can put it on your social media platforms, on your website, on all the posts and content that you put out there. It all comes back to this purpose for your community. Now, I recognize this might require time and conversation and attention if you don't already have this like centralized, focused idea. If you're just a community and you just want people to come on Sundays, that's one thing. But why else are you a body of Christ? And why should other people be interested in that? So take some months, take a year to have those conversations and evaluate that. And then you can share it authentically, all as a unit, inviting people in. Speaking of inviting people in, again, if you're posting externally on platforms that you know are going beyond your local community in person, there needs to be other ways for them to on-ramp into what you're doing than just come attend our church service in person. So some people call them next steps, some people call them on-ramps. Some like surface level ones here could be, oh, wow, they subscribe to our email list or followed us on social media. They must be either interested in what we're doing or the message we're sharing. And that's them taking a step to say, oh, I kind of want to hear more about this. So track that. These are all things to keep track of and pay attention to, not just attendance. So, wow, they attended Zoom office hours or submitted a prayer request. Maybe these are like, the next step in. Keep track of how many people are doing these things, attending worship or webinars, volunteering, participating, pretty much anything related toward your mission, which I can't speak to what that is without knowing exactly why it exists. But think about what are the tangible ways that people can engage in that mission and pay attention to those. Don't just pay attention to how many people, watched your live stream. These are other things to track. And I just said that. So switching gears a little bit here to analytics, this is a reminder that social media is one of those free tools. We're talking about free tools in 2021. Great. You can try Boxer, you can try Slack, you can try Zoom, but please don't knock social media as another free tool. I'm going to take that off for a second. Another thought, we need to think about analytics as far as what kind of posts are people interested in and engaging with versus let's just use social media as our bulletin board. That's kind of what we want to get away from here. A lot of churches default to this, which we get. You don't have all the time in the world to pay attention to this, and yet we think it's very valuable to do so. And that could be as simple as, once every 3 to 6 months, logging into whatever platforms you're active on and saying, okay, what posts are doing well and what posts aren't? And taking notes on that, like literally writing down, these are the things that went well. So for an example, here's from our Digivangelism page in October, we had, let's say, one post, it has, 75 people are reached and like more engagement than this other post. I would say, okay, that's interesting. Let's put them side by side. And what do I notice about them? I might say, okay, this one didn't do as well. It was kind of on a niche topic here. We were doing a video. We were asking people to, learn something that they might not be interested in. We just posted a video link here versus here, we actually connected the video. There's emojis on the right one, which makes it a little more personal. It is a personal topic. We ask people to share it. Like, these are all the type of things I would list down and say, well, if I notice this with other popular posts we make, maybe it's worth doing more of these things. Now, these are just examples for this particular video, not saying that this is something you pay attention to for your own videos. But I do suggest that you look at the analytics of your type of posts and say, oh, when we post a picture of anybody in our congregation, pastor, staff, members, those posts do really well. Maybe we should try to do more of that than when we just post text and say, come to worship on Sunday, or whatever the least engaged posts you're having are. You can also do this on Instagram. You have a lot more options here. You can see impressions. You can see how many times the posts were saved, shared, liked, commented, etc., etc. And I would say, oh, wow, so text posts maybe are doing well for us. And there were a lot of self-care posts in these when I looked at them. So it's good information for you, not just so you know what type of content does well, but also the information contained in the content. So it's not just, oh, the text posts are doing well, that's great, we should do more of that. But it could also be, wow, we talked a lot about hope this month and made different posts about hope. And I noticed all of those are in our top performing posts. But nobody wanted to hear about this other thing. So just kind of look at what your people are valuing, because that's their way of communicating what's important to them. Same thing on YouTube. Again, you can look at which videos are getting the most interaction or views. And I would go, oh, okay, so look, people are interested in Advent or social media. We should do more of that. But for you, it might be, again, wow, that sermon on hope, inclusion, whatever it is, that sermon got a lot of hits. Maybe we need to talk about that more. Or, wow, nobody really watched this one video on this topic, but I think it's so important, so I'm going to do that again and focus on it in a different way. It's just good information and a very helpful free tool to pay attention to on any platform you're on. And back to you, Michele.
Google My Business. We can replace business with church, Google My Church, but that's not what it's called. Google My Business is probably one of the most, you have to have a Google My Business page. I mean, even if you just spend 30 minutes setting it up, just have it. It helps your SEO, which means traffic to find you. And it helps if you have your own website connected to it, it will help that traffic as well. So with Google My Business, Google has, from public records, has made some assumptions about who you are. So if you were to type your name in, and you haven't claimed it, you would probably find something on your organization, but it's just an assumption that Google makes. So you want to claim your organization. And they have a process where you verify who you are with phone number or email. And then you can control it. And then you can put yourself in the proper category, and you can populate it with all the essential info. Obviously, your location is, because it's on a map, your worship times, anything you'd want folks to know about your group, your community. When you have when you don't have a website, for example, it's just like a little website junior. It's just, and it could be a good bridge to your larger website. Now, it's great idea to have just authentic photos out there, and and even a welcome video, just a little blurb, a little something out there, because Google, it's the biggest search engine we have, and it wants your traffic, so it will engage. And there's also, it's not a bullet point here, there are also reviews that folks can leave who have visited your church. And you want to interact with those reviews, because they help your traffic as well, because it's just like Facebook engagement, right? If people are leaving reviews and there's something happening good at your organization, your church, and you want to respond to them and kind of have a little conversation going. So it's good to get that claimed. And at the very least, just have a welcome video out there. You don't have to put, and it is a mechanism for posts, but I'm not suggesting you post yet another place, but it does have that capability. Next up is Tiny PNG. Now, this is a website, not exactly a tool, but tinypng.com. And this compresses PNG, JPEG, and WebP image files. This is image files. And why is this important? Because smaller files will load faster on your websites, on your mobile devices, through emails. And without fail, when I use it on our PNG for our website, at least 50-60% compression I get on it. And it uses less bandwidth because it's a smaller file, and you don't lose any sharpness. If it's just a photo for your website or an email, it's fine. If it's something that's going to be printed out or something, you want a little more formal in a brochure, you wouldn't want to compress it, because you're going to lose a little bit of the sharpness. But just for websites, it's amazing. It's the size that you'll save there. And speed is key. Speed is key, because people don't want to waste time sitting there waiting for your website to load, because what's happened to our attention spans in the last couple of years. So another free tool is Elementor, and Elementor we'll have put an asterisk to free, because the tool itself is free, but there's a pro version that you pay for. But to have a website to build on, you usually need a domain name, which is not free. It cannot be free. It can be free. Well, depends where you get your deal. Sooner or later, you're gonna have to pay for something, either domain name or hosting. So hosting is minimal. There are free hosting plans, but we say you get what you pay for. So have to weigh that out. So Elementor itself is a page builder on WordPress, drag and drop, very intuitive. And they're also, I have not used them myself. Every hosting provider has its own page builder as well, website builder. It's sort of the same concept, drag and drop. We use Bluehost at Digi, and I have other websites on HostGator, so I've put those up here, but I have not used them myself. But I would encourage you to check them out as an alternative. And these hosting companies want your business, so they want to make you to come in there, use their tools, and stick around. So they're making it easier. Their tools are definitely getting easier and more intuitive, and there's a lot of videos that can step you through these things. Other builders that are totally free are Wix and Weebly, but there's a little caveat that comes with them. I think they have advertising or something on the top or bottom of the page. So that's my spiel on hosting.
Cool. A couple more tools we have for you for Outward Digital Ministry. This one is a podcast distributor, which is free, which I think is a good tool for churches, especially those who record their sermons. If you're recording your sermon in a video MP4, you can drag that file in right into Anchor, and it will extract the audio and type a title, and it will distribute it onto podcast platforms, which I think is amazing. And I love that it takes the audio out of the video right for you. So if you're already recording your sermon videos, put it out there audio only, because there are people who are in the car and going for a run and are looking for podcasts, and those connected to your community just might be listening to your latest sermon. This one is another tool I'm excited about. If you have an Instagram or Twitter or anything like that for your church, TikTok, you can only have one link in your social media platform. If you don't, this might not be as useful for you. But if you do have Instagram, you have this one link opportunity. So you can put your website in there. Great, people can connect to your website. But let's say you make a post and you want people to be able to donate to a cause you're really excited about. Well, then you need to change your link from your website link to that other link and try to remember to change it back. And it's just confusing. So an easy fix, there are a lot of platforms that have multiple links, like Linktree. This is just the one we use. They're mostly free. This one is free. And it looks like this. So you click the link in any of our bios is what it's called, in Twitter or Instagram or TikTok. And it takes you to this same Linktree where we can link to, website, YouTube channel, all sorts of things. Maybe a pastor wants to link to their personal pages or websites too, or other ministry causes, organizations you're connected to, the ELCA overall, whatever it is, you can put it all in there and link up your social media accounts on the bottom too. I did want to call attention to this in our Linktree, because we are not affiliated with this at all, but we think it's really cool. Church in the Wild is a church plant. I think United Methodist, I forgot to look that up, but they're very, very awesome, focused on environmental justice and nature ministry. And they're selling an Advent package for like $30 or something to support their ministry. So we put it in there just to support them because we thought it was cool. Check it out if you want Advent material. And then, note that you can put your social links there so people can connect with you on other platforms once they find you. And I hope you know about Canva already. Free tool in general. There's a pro paid version that you can also get free for nonprofits. You just have to kind of submit nonprofit information. A free photo editing tool that is amazing. I could talk about it for the rest of the presentation, so I won't talk about it at all, but check it out if you haven't yet. And then 2 video editing programs if you're looking for free. I haven't used either of these much, but InShot, I believe, is just phone use, and DaVinci Resolve is like more upper level video editing, like comparative to Premiere Pro. Some people think it's better, but a lot cheaper because it's free. So if you're looking for platforms, those are 2 to consider. Not going to talk about these much either, but just know that there are scheduling apps out there, so you can make a post and it goes to multiple platforms at the same time, which is a game changer. If you're trying to make the posts every single day live, no, just schedule it once for the next 2-3 weeks, and then you don't think about it anymore. It's very helpful. We like Buffer, but I think any of them would be good. And I want to land here on TikTok and Instagram Reels because, again, we're talking about free tools. There's no better outreach on social media for free than TikTok and Instagram Reels. If you don't know that their algorithm is different than Facebook and Instagram, it is. That means that when you make a church Facebook post, it's pretty much going to the people that have already decided to follow your church. When you make a TikTok on TikTok, you are putting this video out there that's going to get thrown around the internet space and could take off a lot more easily than a Facebook post would. So it's not just the people following you. TikTok's really trying to find anyone that might be interested in your content. So use these platforms as outreach if you use them. And we know that you can't spend all your time making TikToks. It would be fun if you could spend a lot of your time doing it, but you have other things to do and in-person people to care for. But if you are interested in these platforms, here are some quick tips. Again, do them intentionally. Don't tell people about your potluck on Sunday on these platforms, please. These are not for that. These are for reaching people that may never be connected to you in person. These are for everyone on the internet. Consume the content first. So actually watch TikToks or Reels for an hour. If you haven't already been sucked into that vortex, let yourself be taken a little bit, because you need to kind of understand how it works and how people are using platforms before making your own. TikToks and Reels are made to be copied. So participate in trends. If you see someone doing something to a song, that's fine for you to do the same thing to the same song. That's what it's there for, copying one another and playing off of it in response to your own mission and your own ministry. Yeah, always connecting back to that mission. Share your knowledge. I'm guessing there's a lot of church leaders, pastors, staff on this call, and so you use that use that knowledge that you have, educate people. There are so many people out there sharing theology for better or for worse, and so sharing the good training that you have is a gift to the world, and especially to people who, younger people especially, that don't know that they're invited into God's love because of their sexuality, gender identity, whatever it is. This is a space for you to reach those people, and a lot of people are being reached in that way. And be consistent as you can be. If you don't have time for this, you don't have time for this. If you do have time for it, try to, say to yourself, okay, I'm going to make 1 a week or 2 a week, whatever it is, and try to stick to that for a couple months, rather than just making one and then leaving the app completely. And again, recognize the outreach potential you have here. This is not for your potluck. This is to teach people, to share about God's love, to share your mission, not just your church. Okay, if you want churches to follow, there are a lot of pastors out there on TikTok that are doing really well, but I tried to focus on churches here so you could see some of those examples. Riverside in New York City, we're big fans of them. Good Shepherd, Albuquerque, First Church, Birmingham. Galileo Church, you might be familiar with them. Diff Church, we love, on the right there. In Florida, they're kind of new with this, but doing great things. So take a screenshot, come back to this later, whatever it is, find these folks, look at what they're doing, see if you can do that sort of thing too. Michelle, do you want to jump in the last here, or want me to keep going? Keep going. Okay. We have YouTube videos on this. That's all I'm going to say about that. If you want more information on how to use Reels or TikTok, go to our channel, because I can't hit everything right here. Bonus. That's what that says up top. Bonus. Advent and Christmas. Did I miss a slide? Did it get deleted? Oh, bummer.
Did it get rearranged, the Facebook slide?
Yeah, where is it?
It's under bonus.
It is? Oh, it's after bonus?
After
okay,
bonus.
well, let's do the bonus first. Bonus, sharing Advent and Christmas well. Advent and Christmas are coming up. Here's some tips to share that better online. Don't just put it on your church calendar and then make a Facebook post and think that everybody's going to remember, because the post gets stuck in your feed and then people can't find it and they forget, or they just won't look for it. So put it on your website, on the homepage, make it viewable. Here's what we're doing this Advent, or here's when Christmas services and opportunities are. If you are on Instagram, record a story video and highlight it. If you don't know what that means or how to do that, you can either check our YouTube video out about this or just email me and I'll help you out. And if you are on Facebook, use that cover photo. The cover photo at the top of your page stays on your page when people go to your page to say, oh, I wonder what this church is doing, and they can't find that post that's hidden in your feed, they're going to see your cover photo anyway. So maybe put your topics, not your topics, your opportunities, your events, your Christmas services up there in that cover photo. Text message, you're not going to text them every day from now until Christmas telling them when Christmas is, but maybe 1 or 2 or 3 updates about what's coming up wouldn't be overkill. You have a lot of people's numbers already. Maybe use a service like GroupMe or something to get that word out there. Consider where people can send questions to, because there will inevitably be questions even if you've answered them already. So if you want people to call your church or email someone, include that information and then track who's asking those questions. If it's a new visitor and you see them, great, follow up. If you don't see them, great, follow up at some point. And then don't knock the idea of doing some sort of recap video after. Advent and Christmas, because you've already done all the work. You've written the sermon. You've, thought of the liturgy, that sort of thing. So how can you repurpose this for people who missed it online, whether those are on social media or YouTube or what? Okay, now that slide that got moved.
Make sure you have a page, not a profile. And check your about section. Check that today and schedule when you'll do it next. You want to keep that up to date. And as I'm reading through this here, I'm thinking I said a lot of these things about Google My Business. So repurpose that content because it is very similar. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time you post in another platform. So your about section is going to be your mission, your why. Are you inclusive? Why do you exist as a community? And why would people want to come and visit you? Show behind the scenes content to make that connection. Not everything has to be polished and captioned. Facebook actually captions itself, but not everything has to be polished. You can do just take your phone, walk around the sanctuaries, and we're getting ready to do Sunday service. We're getting ready for an Advent midweek thing, just kind of make it casual. And that does well on TikTok as well. Is that authentic appearance. So back to Facebook. In your welcome video, we've probably said this 5 times in this presentation, have a welcome video, put it on your Google My Business, put it on your Facebook page, put it on your website. So pin a welcome video up to the top. So that's the first thing people see when they visit you. And that could be not just the pastor talking, but just some interviews of the staff. Walk around your office and say, hey, when you come here, this is what you can expect, and actually walk around your building. And what we were just talking about, the cover photos for Advent, use them to your advantage. You can change them up with the seasons. And we're coming into Advent, Christmas, make that a prominent part of your Facebook page. And you can even put your worship times in there if you're having a specific special worship for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, or whatever your schedule might be. Just pop that on your Facebook page. Leave it there till the end of the year.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Tag me in. All right, we are done. We're gonna do Q&A. I see there's chats, but I don't see what they are. Just throwing this information here. If you do have more questions or you have to jump off the call, that's our Gmail website, and you can find us on any of these platforms at Digivangelism. We do put out a weekly free post and video. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Oh, look, people are still here. That's always fun. Is Bob still here? There he is.
And indeed.
Fantastic. Good examples of theology on TikTok. Oh, look. Yeah, I got that. That actually reminds me, though. So I said there's a lot of pastors. It was actually a little bit of a hunt to find the church examples, just because there's less of them than pastors actually showing up and showing content. But if you search the hashtag progressive clergy or even progressive Christianity on TikTok, you will get a ton of pastors that are doing this every single day. Some ELCA, some PCUSA, but yeah, progressive clergy. Michelle, I know you've done a little more research into the online giving. Do you see the question in the chat? I'm not sure if that's more.
Can you suggest a soft way to encourage contributions and other support from the online audience? Interesting question. Rather than just say, here, go to our giving link. Try to talk about what you support, what the money would be used for, and how you support your community, how you support, if you do outreach, to sort of kind of get people encouraged and make them feel like they are contributing to a bigger cause. Just to kind of talk about what you do. How are you going to use that? The children you serve, if you have a preschool, or if you have any children's programs.
Yeah, I think any of the good training you've had from seminary or synods or wherever on how to have those conversations in person, just trying to repurpose them into online ways, whether that's in actual Zoom conversations like this or sprinkled content in there, and see how it does when you bring up that topic. Axel?
So, what do you do when you encounter hate on the things that you post? Because I'm getting a lot of hate messaging right now.
Yeah. Well, first of all, sorry that you're finding that. Yeah, trolling is huge, especially on like TikTok or even like Facebook. Sometimes if you sponsor a post, it'll get out there to someone that just wants to pick at your church, even if they have no idea who you are. We did make a video on this because there are a couple options, but basically just know that there are technical options for you as far as like you can delete the comment, you can hide the comment so the person sometimes people think that's better because then they don't know you deleted it. Like they don't know, no one else can see it anymore, so they don't think like, oh, they deleted that comment, I'm gonna go leave more comments now. It's hidden, so no one else is gonna see it. And then there are also, you know, the idea that you could just engage them. And a lot of the progressive clergy on TikTok will make their content in response to a lot of the hate they get because they're sharing about how LGBTQIA plus folks are fully loved and included. And people don't like that sometimes. And so they'll respond to their questions or their hate as a way of educating people. And so you kind of have to make that call personally. Is this a battle I'm going to respond to? Do I reach out one-on-one? And maybe you do those and you hide it because you don't want it out there. But yeah, did that answer, or at least give some options?
No, that helps. I'll probably have to hide a few comments, but I guess my issue right now is that someone took and edited one of my videos and made a very unflattering and inaccurate version of it. And that's getting around some websites that are of a much higher magnitude than my YouTube presence. That's no fun.
Wow.
Can they
Yeah,
be
that is
reported?
so fun.
Huh?
Sammy, is there anywhere to report them?
I mean, you can often, you know, report on various platforms. Whether or not they're going to do anything about it is sometimes the question. In that case, if it is like already public and you can't do anything about it, you could, you know, perhaps make a response video and just be like, here's my take. I don't know why they did this or where they got this, but here's what I actually said. Or you could, you know, let it go and hope that the dust settles soon. That's awful, though. I'm sorry to hear that.
I wonder too if it's your creation and someone's used it without permission, can you file a copyright claim against it?
I suspect not, because it's
I think
as
you
a
have
public
copyright.
figure. There's
Yeah.
a reaction. Yeah, you think? I don't know.
I don't know. I haven't seen the video, so.
A tough one. Other thoughts, questions, overwhelm? Deep breath, it's over.
Yeah, very quiet group today. So did anybody find something that, you know, you want to take away and use right away? Right away in quotes.
I looked up the Google My Business. I had just gotten in just before that came on, and I find someone else has claimed our business. So I sent a request to this, whoever this email is, that they won't show me yet, to be the owner. So we'll see what happens.
That's, I think, echoes Michelle's point of earlier with the Facebook groups too, to try to make sure there's either multiple people with access to things or like a centralized church account that has access to everything. We've run into that before too, where someone just kind of says, this is mine. Now in your case, maybe it's just someone did it and forgot about it, you know, 10 years ago, and you just need to connect. But sometimes it can be malicious. I got a question here about on the page showing the analytics and advertising, the numbers in the small black circle. Oh, represent hits. Yeah, they represent whatever. I think you're referring to the Instagram analytics page. There were numbers shown. You can change the category of what you're looking at. on Instagram Insights. So you can click, I want to see how many people have liked my top posts, and then the number represents how many likes. Impressions would be more like reach, like how many people have seen this based on how many times it was shared and commented on. And there's so many options, it's overwhelming, but you can see each of those things.
I have a question. How do you sell this to a congregation that is still old school? And if you have to hire someone to do this, because if you don't have the ability to do that in your congregation, how much would it cost for having someone to kind of oversee that?
You want to start, Michele, or?
I would say first start with your goals in mind. What are you hoping to accomplish with your digital ministry presence? And see if you have volunteers that can step up. Kids, obviously the younger generation is a little more attuned to this, but don't discount the older folks, because I'm pretty old and I get this too. But just kind of reach out and put feelers out and talk to your council, your board members, perhaps, to see if they have any connections. There's always someone who's going to know someone else who can do this. And if you have to hire out, there's services like Upwork and Fiverr, and probably a little for more Christian focused ones that you can connect with. But how to connect it or sell it to elder folks, that is a tough one, because they're going to be a little probably not entirely on board with the technology, and might be a little harder for them. But try to introduce it to them. Have like a little, after Sunday service, have a little session in your fellowship hall when it's safe to do so, to kind of take away the stigma and the mystique of technology, and encourage them that they can do this too, even if they just get on Zoom with you, even if they just join a Facebook group.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think there are different levels to it too, which is kind of why we were trying to separate the internal and external. Maybe external, like outreach, isn't quite on your radar, or it's not able to be as much of your time right now. And that's okay. It looks different to say our community is going to commit to, putting out 1 or 2 TikToks a week and be on TikTok live for worship to reach people that may never come in person. Like, that's a totally different thing than we're trying to get our congregation who's already spending time on Facebook to spend time together on Facebook in a Facebook group. So like on one hand, you're going to your people and saying, okay, are any of you spending time online? Like, what does your online time look like? Like, you have those conversations. And if they're not spending time online, then maybe that's not somewhere you're really focused on. But if outreach is important to you, especially outreach to younger folks, that looks different, and perhaps having some younger folks that can speak to that would be helpful. And if they're not willing to speak to everybody in the church, maybe they could speak to you or some leaders that you can then share with the church, saying, our young people said that they would rather engage with us in this method than, watching our YouTube services or even coming in person. Do we want to invest our resources, our time, our money into reaching young people in this way? I'm not saying this is like the end all fix to get young people in your church or anything. I'm just saying generally a lot of them will interact better online. More comfortably, perhaps, online. And yes, thank you for that. That was a really good question.
Yep.
Any other really good or not as good questions? We'll take bad questions.
So here's a bad question.
Oh, good.
So you were, you talked about analytics or analytics, not advertising, I think is the way you phrased it. Are you suggesting that advertising is not really helpful?
The 80-20 rule is generally what we will promote. So 20%, advertising, things going on in your church, 80% not advertising. Whether that's teaching people, whether that's showing behind the scenes, whether that's whatever that means for your church. If your church is, social justice or prayer, like making those opportunities available online. I think you have to tell people what's going on. It's good to put that out there. But a lot of churches will fall into the habit of making 80% their online presence advertising, or 100%, and they'll just, you know, use Canva and post a cool picture to say what's coming up, and that's not how you actually engage community online. That's not being church online. That's just telling people about what's going on, which is still good, but not everything.
See, I told you it was a bad question.
Yeah, you put me up for
It's a great question.
Hand raised. Jamie?
Yeah, hi, thanks. So I'm wondering if you have like any suggestions in terms of best practices for connecting with youth directly, just in terms of like accountability, transparency. I know that the easiest way to be in connection is typically like digital tools, one-on-one, but I want to be making sure to do that in ways that like keeps everybody safe and is appropriate. So I'm wondering if you have like best practices in that area.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with, is it either Safe Church or Safe Sanctuary? I think there's actually like a program out there. Another thing, Michelle was talking about Facebook groups. I know that this has come up multiple times in, like, there's the ELCA Youth Ministry Facebook group. There's a couple of other ELCA groups I'm in, and you know, you can search those groups and actually see the uploaded like safety practices agreements that other churches have already put together. I think it's good to like have some kind of guidelines that you think are okay or not okay, like written out, or that your staff agrees are this is what we're going to go by. What they are specifically, that's going to, you know, depend on what your community is most comfortable with, I think. But yeah,
Sure.
People upload them on those groups, so
Awesome.
I search those.
No, that's super helpful. Thank you.
Sure. Oh boy, blowing up in the chat. Audio. Oops. I mean, you can get a microphone. A lot of like the lavalier, is that how you say it? Lav mics. Does anyone here have a mic that they love for like phone recording or anything like that? A lot of people have been taking a plunge into different microphones in the pandemic. Oh, Bob, you're on mute, Bob. You gotta say it once.
That's the catchphrase of 2020, 2021. You're on mute. This is real simple. You probably can't see it, but it's a mic, a shotgun mic that plugs into the lightning port on a phone. There are also versions for phones that still have headphone and mic jacks. But they do a good job at being able to allow you to record from farther away and also reject some of the side noise. And there are several brands of these. This is a Rode, but there are several others, and they're all under $100. Probably some are $30, so they're not expensive.
Great. See, Sue has one.
Yeah, I have a condenser mic that we're still using my phone to do worship services, but when you get the phone too far away, you couldn't hear anything. Mm-hmm. So this past week, I plugged this microphone into the phone and it was perfect. Cool. So it worked. And I'm an old person too.
Yeah,
Can you tell us about the kind of mic?
I can tell you. It says it's recording microphone compatible with laptop, desktop, mobile phones, and tablets. I don't know what this means. DSLR and action cameras, Xbox and PlayStation.
Wow. Talk about universal.
Yeah, it was only about $30, I think, and it's got a stand and a long cord.
Yeah, I'm with Bob on the mics that plug directly either into a phone or an iPad. They're very effective. You can clip them right on. They actually have there's a software package from either Shure or somebody else. I use a Movo, relatively inexpensive, clips on, and you can adjust the pattern in software. And I've used it for rather several Advent services and the like, where we had devotions in the evening. So it's great, simple, works, but I'm sure there are plenty others. So.
Thank you all for sharing that. Michelle, do you want to respond to that latest question, or?
I didn't see
Okay.
the question.
So where should a church turn today to fine tune their web presence and offer the invite me feeling is the question. Knowing that there are a lot of platforms and tools.
So is the question how to make your website inviting?
Oh, you don't have the question. That's why you can't see it. I'm
No.
sorry. It's direct. Okay, so in the beginning, most churches happy to have a basic web presence. In this day and age, social media is on all platforms, in all directions, with more tools than ever before. So knowing that, other than the information shared today, where should a church turn to fine tune the web presence and offer that invite me feeling?
No. So we are huge proponents of, yes, you need a website. Social platforms are not under your control. So if you want to concentrate and focus your efforts on your digital and social presence, that's good. But having a solid website with what you believe, who your staff is, having it up to date, what you're offering in terms of Bible studies. And there are a lot of tools that can make that. You can integrate your calendar from your office into your website so people can see what's going on. And you don't have to spend a lot of time tweaking and updating your website. But making it welcoming is giving it that personal feel, and have personal photos of people in your congregation, of your staff, certainly of your pastors, ministry leaders. If you have a preschool, a little preschool video of little kids running around, or just preschool teachers addressing what would happen if their child were to enroll in a preschool. So just make it as personal as possible, and video is really going to be taking off as we're seeing with TikTok and Reels, as Sammy alluded to, because it's just much easier than reading. People are just getting more used to that visual. Does that help answer the question?
I love that you said, being more personal with the photos. I think like vulnerability comes to mind too. And obviously you want to have your own like boundaries about what that looks like for you, especially as a clergy person, if that's who you are, or a staff person. But if you're able to, open up, be a little human in your presence on social media, that is huge. It shows that, you're a real human being that they might be able to connect with beyond just a church name on a Facebook page somewhere.
The only thing I'd add is make sure if you're working with children that you've got permission from parents before you post them.
Good call.
Photo releases are your friend.
Any other lingering questions?
Going.
Oh, I don't know, it's a question. Maybe it's more of a confession. I don't think social media first. Like listening to all the great suggestions, like, I need to do this more. It like doesn't come to my mind first. Maybe that just means I'm aging, but it's like how to get that in my head of, oh, I should post that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's any answer to that.
I think experimenting, trying things a couple times before knocking them off and building it into routines that you already have going could be helpful. So I'm not sure if you're on staff or, a member or a pastor, but you have a role in the church that you take place in. Maybe it's you write a sermon every week. Can you make one short video every week after your sermon or before your sermon, either as a preview to the sermon or after as a check-in, just to say, here's what we talked about, and I hope you're taking this with you for the week. If you aren't able to make it, here's like the 1 or 2 minute version of it type of thing. And kind of just seeing where that goes to start, whether that's on Facebook or whether that's, throwing it out there on TikTok. And again, I think TikTok can surprise a lot of people because people will post a video like that and think no one's going to watch this. And they wake up to a lot more people than no one watching. So just trying those things and putting them into practice for at least a couple weeks before giving them up. Michele, anything else?
I don't mean to put you on the spot, Stuart, but what did you do during the pandemic? We were like totally like digital at that time. Were you making efforts then to connect with folks digitally, or was that a comfort or no?
So we were creating an online pre-recorded worship service.
Mhm.
And then we did move to live stream in both the congregations I've served during the pandemic. Probably the thing that I liked the best that we did was texting devotions. We had a daily text devotion that really got some connection. We just started out with scripture lessons in the beginning, and then asked people to write devotions. And if they didn't write a devotion, we just sent the scripture. If they wrote the devotion, then it had the scripture on it. And the thing that hit me was we could have done that before. We could have been on people's phones every day prior to the pandemic, but we were kind of more aware. Oh, we got to create some kind of a presence. Right.
So you're getting there. You're there with texting. That's one of the things Sammy brought up today, text messaging. If you're not quite sold on the social media and you have a database for your church management system of all your members, email is totally underrated. And you could make a video, put it in an email and send that out to your members. So
I'm not sold. It's just not what I think of first. It ends up being a lower priority and then not done at all.
I would, and I don't know what they. Oh,
you should buy one of our shirts that says "Digital Ministry is Ministry."
I don't know what the response would be from your people, but maybe talking to some of them, like we had kind of started off with, about where they spend time online, would be more convincing. To hear, oh yeah, a lot of my members are on Facebook or are on TikTok or Instagram or whatever. And maybe they won't be. And then you can say, oh, I don't need to do this right now. I don't know what it's going to be. But if you do hear people saying, oh yeah, like I'm on Facebook for an hour every day, that might kind of make it come to mind more that this is where your people are already spending time. Just a thought.
Speaking of text messaging, do you have any specific services that you think are effective for? I know people have to opt in to text, and there's a whole bunch of requirements for that. Are there services that are good for mass texting?
Yeah, I have used, I think it was Flocknote before. Your church management system might already have something connected to it that can send a text, so that might be worth looking into. I hear a lot about text in church, but I can't speak to it at all. I just know a lot of people use it. But Flocknote is the one that I used, and it was really nice because we just wrote the text out and scheduled it, and it sent. So maybe Stuart can tell us what he is.
We were using the Church Community Builder, and it was built into it. What's the one that you mentioned, Sammy?
Flocknote, FLOCK.
Oh, it's in separate Flock.
Yep, Flocknote, and then Text in Church was the other one.
I get advertisements from them all the time.
Yeah, I said, I've heard from them. I can't speak to it.
I have a statement to Sammy. I recall about 40 years ago, I took a speed reading class to help me read books faster. And this day in social media, I get inundated with emails. I get inundated with other kinds of pages on Facebook. I get inundated with website after website and YouTube videos and things I watch for historical reasons for going through a Diaconia program. And it's just tons and tons of material that tend to overload the senses after a while. And I don't think you have an answer how to solve that problem, but some things we'd say, I'm not going to bother looking at that anymore because it's not relevant, or whatever. And you shut out certain things that were important to you at one time. So it's like your baggage. You're carrying this baggage with you, and you have to decide later on, I need less of this and more of something else. Now, is that a fair assessment, or am I losing my mind here?
I mean, I think I'm going to validate your experience here. Yeah, I also think we have to remember that our people on the other end of technology that we're trying to reach out to are feeling very overwhelmed too. And when I was working with the staff of Northeast Pennsylvania Synod with the youth, we would talk about that with the youth leaders sometimes, that like the youth also need to, like, we think of them as the digital folks, spending time online all the time because they're young people, but sometimes they need to put their phone down too and check out and go outside. And so we can't always make assumptions about the people being comfortable online all the time. And we need to take care of ourselves too. Like, I hope that you were kind of alluding to that sometimes you just need to not be on, and I'm a millennial for sure, but I certainly have my phone on do not disturb a lot of the time, or there'll be weeks go by that I'm not going on social media platforms because I just need a break. So taking care of ourselves is a really important part of this, especially as people that may be trying to engage online as part of our work, taking that mental space when we're at play. Did that respond to your comment? Okay, good.
And I would add to that, just setting up and maintaining your boundaries with your own community and congregation, and know that it is perfectly fine to take a break, to check out on a Sunday afternoon. There's no shame in that. I mean, we have to. I do it. Sammy does it. It is overwhelming between cable TV and all the devices we have. It is a little crazy. So go out, take a walk. Once a week at least. And don't bring your phone with you.
And that reminds me of the point that we made at a conference we spoke at in June, which I think is maybe how Bob got connected with us. Where we're reminding people over and over again that you cannot do everything. And that shouldn't negate the fact that you can do something and that you can do that something well. Whatever, you can't take everything we just presented you with and say, I'm going to go do all of it. Like, please do not do that. But figure out what is the best path for you to try and try to lean into that well. But you can't do everything and you can't do it all well because we just don't have that much time, headspace, any of it. So please find some peace in that you are not doing it wrong if you're not taking all of the tips we gave you, but take what's helpful.
Well, great. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
It's a lot of fun.
This was fun.
And you'll be okay if we post this publicly?
Yeah, please do. You can tag us. We'll share it. It'll be great.
Okay.
If you want the slides, we can send those too.
That might be helpful, actually.
Cool.
If you wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
Very helpful.
No
if
problem.
you send them to me, I can then share them with
okay.
the others.
I'll do that. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
You know what? Like, I should ask one more question. Sammy and Michele, you obviously, it's a business you have. How can we? Are there services? Are there ways you can get paid beyond what Bob's going to hopefully send you?
Michele, do you want to talk?
Yes, actually, we have T-shirts for sale right now. We have an ebook for sale right now. And at the bottom of our website, we have a support our work link that is just an unmonetary donation. a donation because we're a business, but it is a monetary way to pay us if you don't want a t-shirt. Aside from that, those are the things. We're ramping up what we call DCRs, or digital communication reviews. And that's where we take a good look at all of your social media and tell you where you can improve and kind of help your, Stuart, this is probably a good thing for you, is we'll get you engaged with your social media a little bit. But we look at your website, your social media, and what your presence looks like, and try to give you some pointers on how to improve that according to what goals you have. We're ramping up with starting to do websites. We have that in our back pocket, and we are developing a course.
So ramping up
all this.
Ramping up means it's not widely available yet, but
Yeah.
follow us and it'll be out within the next few months or so. But thanks for asking, Stuart. That was kind. Oh, and we're in Pennsylvania, near Allentown. Someone just direct message asked that, so I figured I'd share it. So we're pretty local to y'all.